Cardinals, again, Jonathan Gannon doesn't bring too much to the table as far as coaching. Kyler Murray, we know he's made up, but he's also lost Hollywood Brown, and they got James Conner and they drafted Trey Benson, but like, how much is that going to help? Again, 7-10. I just think Kyler Murray's going to have a tough time this year, and that's why I do have 49ers at 11-6, but I also have the Rams right there at 10-7. So I think it's very, very close.
Yeah, and I think too with McCaffrey, it'll be interesting to see A, what his health is like, but B, Brock Purdy has always, and again, this isn't me being a Brock Purdy hater. Everybody chill out. However, that offense has always revolved on the play action game, the misdirection game.
Yep.
And when they don't have McCaffrey at a full clip, potentially, I'll be interested to see what they do if they go back to Debo as a running back and then Ayuk's on the outside. It'll just be interesting to see like him without that consistent running game and at least 3, 4, 5 yards at a clip to then go to the play action game and go to the misdirection game. So yeah, I think, look, I still think they win the division, but I just don't think that they're, as good record wise as last year. All right. Next division. I think this might be the toughest division in football.
Agreed.
I mean, you could make the case for the NFC North, the AFC North, but I think it's the NFC North. Everybody's sexy pick this year, Chicago Bears, 7-10, missed the playoffs last year, 5-3 at home, 2-7 on the road, plus minus win total at 8.5. Third easiest schedule in the NFL, and their point differential, even though they were 7-10 last year, was only minus 19. Lions were one dumb Dan Campbell decision away, I think, from going to the Super Bowl last year. Made the NFC title game, 6-2 at home, 6-3 away. Plus minus win total 10.5. 12th hardest schedule in the league. Point differential last year plus 66. Green Bay Packers made the playoffs last year. Beat the brakes off of Dallas again. Glorious. 5-3 at home. 4-5 on the road. Plus minus win total this year 10.5. 14th hardest schedule in the league. Point differential last year plus 33. And then Minnesota Vikings missed the playoffs 7-10. 2-6 at home. 5-4 on the road. Plus minus win total 6.5 wins, 5th hardest schedule in the league, and the point differential at minus 18. All right, you kick this one off.
Yeah, so this is definitely the well, I think people are sometimes, looking at this division and saying there's a lot of, what ifs, but I don't think so. I think the Lions will take this division. I think it's 11-6.
What happened to you being all horny for the Bears last week? Didn't you just tell me that they were like?
I said they're going to win a division. I said they're going to win more than 9.5 games. So I do think that the Bears are at 10-7. I think the Packers are at 10-7, and then I had the Vikings at 7-10. So I do understand where you're coming from because I was hyping up the Chicago Bears, and I get it, Caleb Williams. Like, there's so much on that talent on that field not to be successful. There's just so much talent. And if he's not successful, it's a disappointment year. And that's coming from a guy that's starting his rookie year in the NFL. And like, you put DJ Moore around him, Keenan Allen, who arguably is a 1B wide receiver. And then you have Odunze, who is arguably one of the best wide receivers to come out of that draft class. And then you have Cole Kmet, who down the stretch, actually last year was the quarterback safe goat, right? He was a guy that they could always rely on in that passing game and find a way to make things happen in the red zone. DeAndre Swift signing for 3 years, $24 million is a good get. We all know what Khalil Herbert's capable of doing out of the backfield. But I think what's going to be important for the Chicago Bears to realize is their defense isn't as good as they are, right? And so I think that takes a huge, huge step back with their defense. I think offense is going to try to keep them in games as much as possible. But for me, I love the Packers at 10-7. I really do. I think Jordan Love's a good quarterback. I think Josh Jacobs is going to balance out that offense. I really think, if you look at the defense, are they a team that that can show up game in, game out defensively? I haven't seen enough out of them to say they can consistently do it every single week. I think that they could be a top 15 defense when it's all said and done heading into 2024. But Jordan Love will be in MVP conversations due to his strategy offensively. He's going to put up numbers. I'm telling you, if you have him in fantasy, good. If you don't have him in fantasy, good luck. He's a guy that's going to put his team in the best position with Dobbs and Reed and find a way things down the field with Christian Watson. The Lions, for me, are just the team that just you believe in. And it's one of those things where Campbell just instills that through the TV screen that you want to play for this guy, and he's going to give it your all every single game coaching wise, and it's going to translate into his players undoubtedly. And they've done a great job building in the trenches. And if I have anything to say very quickly on teams that have drafted quarterbacks, that's including the Patriots, that's including the Chicago Bears, that's including the Minnesota Vikings with J.J. McCarthy. I know he's out, but when you look at and Denver Broncos started Bo Nix, this is a good example. Build through the trenches and then acquire talent later. That's the way you're going to win in the NFL, is you work the offensive line and find a way to make things work. And then defensively, you get guys that can rush the quarterback and have at least complementary cornerbacks and safeties that can do the best that they can in order to acquire talent later. That's so important, because if you don't protect the quarterback, you will not last. And we saw it with Joe Burrow, as I mentioned, when they drafted Jamar Chase instead of Penei Sewell. He had sacks on sacks on sacks. I think it was a record-breaking amount of sacks since Ryan Tannehill was with the Miami Dolphins. So if there's anything that the young teams or teams that have developed rookie quarterbacks this offseason, you got to focus on building the trenches. And the Lions have done a fantastic job, and then they went out and got a guy like Jared Goff that can fulfill that quarterback position. They got a guy like Amon-Ra St. Brown in the draft. They got another receiver in Jameson Williams. They got another running back in Jahmyr Gibbs in the draft. It's all about development and progression, and you're seeing it with the Packers as well. I like the Lions at 11-6, but the Packers are right there at 10-7, and the Bears at 10-7. And my goodness, Minnesota Vikings, what have you done for me lately? Nothing. Kirk Cousins has left. J is looking for a quarterback that can throw him the ball. Sam Darnold may be the guy. Jordan Addison a little bit banged up. Hawkinson banged up. I think they go 7-10, and I got the Lions win that division.
Yeah, I agree with you. I was gonna potentially downshift and say the Packers, but just to be different. But I just don't see it, and here's why. So I think the Lions go 12-5 again this year. They didn't lose anybody.
Nope.
They have the best offensive line in football. And what you didn't mention, Ben Johnson's back, which I'm shocked. Absolutely shocked that he's back. But honestly, I feel like that's a great move for him, because a lot of the availabilities this year were like a lot of offensive question marks and a lot of those potential jobs. And I think it's smart of him not to jump on the first one, have a bad year, have an owner that's just like, well, fuck this guy. He's not some wonder kid, and then send him packet. Especially with some of the other jobs that potentially could come up, like the Dallas Cowboys, for instance. The Jahmyr Gibbs thing for the Lions makes me a little concerned, because I feel like they need to be a two-back system for them to be at all power go.
Yep.
But I think the biggest thing for them this year is going to be Jameson Williams, because remember, they took him pretty high in the draft knowing that he was hurt. He was one of the best receivers at Alabama for a long time, and then he had a devastating knee injury. So I think it was either ACL, MCL, something like that. So now it's been a full year. They started to incorporate him in the offense towards the later end of last year, and he showed glimpses. Again, going from training camp footage is like, it is what it is. But he's been explosive at camp, and I really think he's going to be an awesome complement to St. Brown. So then that gives Jared Goff another weapon. on top of Sam Laporta, on top of Amon St. Brown, on top of Montgomery Gibbs combo. And look, they didn't really lose anybody on defense, and Aiden Hutchinson is going to be an absolute monster. So I just don't think with the momentum that they have, and I think for a team like that to be one bonehead move away from potentially going to the Super Bowl, I think that the culture that they have there, and I think the fact that Dan Campbell knew he made a mistake, and I think you're going to see him start to kind of go back just a little bit as far as not being as run and gun with his decision making, coming the important moments in games and know from his mistakes. I don't think he'll make the same mistake twice.
No.
And I have them at 12-5. I
Yep.
got the Packers at 11-6. I think that offensively, I think they're going to be a juggernaut. And I think because you don't know where the ball's going to go because they have so many weapons at, hopefully Christian Watson stays healthy. Romeo Doubs is a great possession receiver. And I think Jaden Reed's going to be the deep threat that they've been looking for. I really like Luke Musgrave as a potential sleeper in fantasy because I think the opportunities are going to be there, especially with fast guys on the outside, Musgrave being in the middle of the field. And I think defensively, they're going to be a lot more aggressive this year. And they got a free agent signing in Xavier McKinney, who I think is going to be able to set the tone for them from a toughness perspective. You can definitely, he's definitely a versatile guy that you can send on some, safety blitzes, good in coverage. And I think just with the fact that they're going to be a lot more aggressive, that's one thing that the Packers have lacked for years is an aggressive defense to be able to get after the quarterback. Look, they still got Kenny Clark in the middle.
Yep.
He eats up 2 blocks every time he goes in there. Preston Smith, if he stays healthy. I think Lucas Van Ness is going to be an absolute monster this year. I see 10 plus sacks for him.
Mm-hmm.
And look, whatever you get from Rashawn Gary and Quay Walker are who they are. They're talented, but they can get exposed. I think the fact of the different defensive philosophy, they're going to put points on the board. And look, who knows about Josh Jacobs? I don't know. Because is he going to be the guy 2 years ago that had 1,500 yards plus yards, or is he going to be the guy last year? Who knows? I don't know if he's tapped or not, but I think he'll be able to do some stuff in the offense. So I think Packers go 11-6. I think the Bears go 9-8. And look, I like all of their offensive weapons. I hate their defensive backfield. Right? Last year, I think they were number 1 in the league in rush defense last year.
Yeah.
They were the bottom 5 in the league in pass defense this year, and they didn't do anything to help that. So, look, I know they have Montez Sweat. He's an absolute monster. I think Caleb is going to be good. I think there will be some growing pains. I like the Swift signing, but I don't necessarily think it'll take them a while to gel. Look, Keenan Allen is good, but I think the Chargers had to have known something if they just let him walk. For to let a guy like that walk, or to let a guy like that or previous production just walk and not replace him.
Yeah.
I think that there's some things there that he might be on his last legs. DJ Moore, obviously Roma Dunze, they have a lot of weapons. I think they're going to have a lot of high scoring games. I just don't know if they're going to get to be able to get stops down the stretch. And especially if you're going up against Jordan Love, and Jared Goff, and look, Justin Jefferson. I don't care who's throwing Justin Jefferson the ball. He's a weapon at all times.
Yeah.
So look, I think they're better. I think next offseason the Bears need to go after defensive corners.